morning. Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. We've got to get our lives together. Oh, let's get a little bit more light. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Holy everything. So, if you were on yesterday's show, oh my gosh, Hot Mess Express. If you watched yesterday's show, I talked about showing up. Today, we're going to talk about trusting yourself. But of course, didn't the universe deal me some cards so that I could explain this in a way that would be perfectly applicable to the moment? So good morning. How are you feeling? Welcome to the morning show. I'm your host, Marli Ansel, at Marli Ansel on the Instagrams. And this is the morning show where you come to get your daily dose of inspiration. So today we're talking about trusting yourself. Yesterday, at the end of yesterday's live, we talked about showing up. Now, don't you know that you have to trust yourself if you're going to show up? Okay. So get this. This morning, I went to bed late last night. I don't know what time it was, but it was definitely after midnight. A lot of times what happens is we head to bed around 10:30. That's like our vibe, 10:30. And then sometimes I will read and journal into oblivion. Like sometimes it just doesn't stop. And then sometimes I'm falling asleep within 2 seconds. Well, last night it was after midnight before I went to sleep. I didn't look at the clock. I don't like to look at the clock because when I look at the clock, then I start thinking about like, oh my God. So I don't do it. Anyway, so this morning, my husband gets up, he gets ready for work. Turns out electricity is not working at his job, so he's working from home today. Praise. And then I'm like, okay, do I want to get up? Do I not want to get up? I was like, yeah. And usually what I do is if I lay there for a while and I'm still kind of awake, then I'll go ahead and get up. But if I go right back to sleep, then I go right back to sleep. And I went right back to sleep. Next thing I know, okay, I wake up and I'm like, what time is it? So I ask Alexa, what time is it? She goes, it's 9:26 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay. I have to be live in 34 minutes. And I just laughed to myself because after yesterday's live talking about showing up and the power of showing up, and then the very next morning, I oversleep to the point where I'm like, well, you got to show up. Like, you can't not show up after talking about it yesterday. So, I mean, of course, I would show up no matter what. But what I found really fun and interesting about it is how it directly connects to what we were talking about in terms of trusting yourself and showing up. So today we're going to dive into trusting yourself, and I'm going to give you this little example to open up our conversation here, because I think everything has a root that is growing the surface effect, right? So showing up, there's some willpower in there for sure, but showing up, there's a root of trusting yourself. You see what I'm saying? So here I am, it's 9:26 a.m. and I'm going to be live here at 10 o'clock. Not one part of me panicked. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to get up and immediately try to look decent and go live. There was this very sound trust with myself. I'm going to show up no matter what. Now that is not willpower. This is what I want to really, really emphasize. That is built. Trusting yourself is built over time. There's no willpower to it. You can't willpower trust. You can willpower showing up a few times, but is that going to last forever? Probably not. And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up, because you start to do something. We'll simplify it even more. you start to do a new workout routine. And you can willpower a new workout routine for like a little while, like you can do it for a little while. But after some time, that willpower energy is going to run out because willpower is not made for a long term sustainable thing. There's got to be something deeper, there's got to be deeper roots. So when we're talking about showing up for yourself, showing up for other people, showing up for the things that you know that you want to be doing in life, because that's ultimately what it comes down to, right? Like, can I show up? Can I be in integrity? We had a whole module on integrity in the Reclamation Mastermind. Can I be in integrity with what it is that I want for myself? Can we write that down? Can I be in integrity? Am I in integrity with what I want for me? Not nobody else. Nobody else involved at all. So think about it like this show. Can I be in integrity with what I want to do, with who I want to be? Am I being in integrity with that? Do you feel how automatically that has like a deeper root already? There's a deeper root there than just like willpowering your way to show up. So this morning, alarm goes off, 9:26 a.m., calm. All right, cool. We gotta go live in like 20 minutes. Let's go. And it was no problem. And it made me laugh in terms of how much we can overthink things, how much we will put this energy of like a should on ourselves, you know what I mean? Because that's there. Like that mind chaos is there. Like, oh, I should have gotten up at 7. I should have whatever. Blah, blah, blah. We can do that. It's available all the time. But is that me supporting myself? No. So we have so much to dive into today. Say hello as you're jumping on. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know your vibe. How is your Thursday morning going? And we're going to talk about trusting yourself because I came across this question and it just stood out to me. So tomorrow we're doing Friday Q&A. So if you have questions that you want to send into the show that you really want to deep dive into, send them over to me and we will answer your questions tomorrow. But I came across this question and it just really spoke to me. I'm going to read it. What practices do you use or beliefs do you embody that help you calibrate to complete self-trust? What practices do you use or beliefs do you embody that help you calibrate to complete self-trust? Okay, so first of all, like, congrats for even thinking about that, right? Oh my gosh. What hot mess today. Oh my gosh. Okay, so self-trust. Self-trust first comes from self-acceptance. You cannot trust yourself if you're rejecting yourself. Self-trust first comes from self-acceptance. And I think this is one of the hardest things for us, especially in the beginning when we're starting to do this personal work on ourselves. And we have all these things we want to fix. We have all these things where we think we should be better. We have all these things where we think that, we're not good enough. We need to improve, blah, 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 blah. I need this, I need that, in order to just accept yourself. So one of the first questions I think is so important to ask yourself is, what am I requiring of myself to just be accepted? Oh, God, right? What a question. What am I requiring of myself? Like, think about all the pressures you're putting on yourself. What am I requiring of myself to just be accepted? Now, accepted's a loaded word, isn't it? Because immediately what it brings in is the thoughts and opinions and ideas of other people. But we're not talking about other people. We're talking about you to you. Because other people, and this is the beautiful thing about how our universal mechanism is created, when you accept yourself, other people will mirror that to you. But so long as you are rejecting yourself, You are going to live in a world where you will see that judgment everywhere. Now, it's probably going to be very, very subtle because the majority of the judgment and the rejection comes from internal, right? We reject ourselves more than anybody else in the world is rejecting us. So, what are you requiring of yourself to just be accepted? What are you requiring of yourself for you to decide that you are acceptable? Do you see what I'm saying? So, I think the first question when you're talking about how do I embody self trust is you've got to ask yourself, where am I rejecting myself? Because where you're rejecting yourself is where you're making yourself wrong. And if you're making yourself wrong, you have an internal battle that's happening here. Self trust doesn't even have fertile ground to start growing in. Do you feel me on this? And I know we're so trained to not have this kind of relationship with ourselves. We're trained to find what's wrong with ourselves and then fix it. We're trained to like pick apart. We're trained to judge. It's just part of the conditioned programming that we're in. But all of that mess is ego. All of that stuff does not come from self-love. It does not come from self-trust. So if I'm looking to build a solid relationship with me, the first thing I've got to do is look at where I'm rejecting myself. Because it's subtle, right? Like you could even be like, no, I'm good with me. I'm good with me. And then you go throughout your day and you woke up a few minutes late. Oh, Marli, you're so lazy. What are you doing? Oh my God, I really should work out. My God, if I don't work out, like, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have eaten that. Oh my gosh, look at my blah, blah, blah. Look at this skin. Look at the. You might do it so habitually that you're not even realizing how often you're rejecting yourself. So we got to get on our own team. I always say this to my clients, like, get on your own team. Get on your own team. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things that I have done over the years that has really, really helped me out. If you want to write this down, write it down, because these are things that I have continuously practiced with myself that has really helped me to do this. So the first thing is I started saying, my OGs are going to laugh because you guys have been with me forever. You've heard me say this. I started saying, past Marli is a genius. Past Marli is a genius. I just started trusting the past version of myself. Yeah, never thought about that before, did ya? I just started trusting the past version of myself. So an example, like silly example, is if I was doing something in the business where I needed to find a certain picture or a certain thing that I wrote or whatever. Oh my, we have plant mats right now and it's driving me insane. I would, oh my God, train of thought. If I was in my business and I was looking for something, and then I would find the picture in the exact organized spot of where it should be. Past Marli is such a genius. Past Marli is such a genius. Or if I set something up and I completely forgotten about it and then I rediscovered it, something that I had done in the past, past Marli is such a genius. Now, it sounds silly, it sounds whatever, but what it does is it starts getting you on your own team. Because where do we reject ourselves most often? It's not usually in the present. It's usually in something we did in our past, something we don't approve of our past, something that we felt like we should have done better. Past Marli's a genius. Now you can take this to even more like bigger things. And in terms of, certain seasons of your life, chapters, eras, it's a little bit harder because you can look back on a whole season of your life and be like, oh gosh, if I would have just subtle rejection. If I would have just done this, then blah, 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 blah. So when it comes to that, here's your next thing that you're going to implement. What I did was the perfect thing to do. And I know that because it's what I did. What I did was the perfect thing to do. And I know that because it's what I did. Do you feel me on this? So even when we do things that maybe we regret or we feel like we could have done better, even in those situations, those can become catalysts for who you are today. So even when you do something that maybe you're like, oh, I could have done that better. My gosh, what's wrong with me? Blah, blah, blah. Even in those situations, you've got to look at it and go, okay, but it had to be the perfect thing because it's what happened. So, what in that am I missing that has helped me so much today? This is so incredible if you really start to understand this. So, this is a huge part of the mindset coaching that I do, like the mental part of it. Every memory that we have has an energetic charge. Okay, by charge, I mean the emotional feeling. So any memory that you can remember, you guys know these things. With those memories that when you think back on them, they like have a little emotional hit. They're like oh, subtle rejection, right? You're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want to think about it. Get it away from me, right? We all have that in our past. So that's a charge. It's an energetic charge. So at the very like baseline, like physics level, think about like electrons, neutrons, protons, they all have a charge. There's a positive and a negative charge. So when you have a memory like that and you feel something when you think about that memory, there is something there for you. There's something you've got to get out of it. Otherwise, it would not have that emotional charge. So when you think back on your past and there's something you're rejecting about yourself in your past, there's something where you're like, oh, I wish I would have done it differently. Right? There's something there for you that is actually golden. I call them golden nuggets. Like there's a golden nugget in that for you that you didn't get at the time, but that is so vital to your personal spiritual development. So when I take my clients back, we do timeline clearing. Gosh, see, this is what happens when I don't have a full cup of coffee before I come talk to you guys. So we do timeline clearing. In that process, I'm taking them back on their timeline of life. And we're going back to that memory. We're not going into the memory though. We're staying above it as like your higher self. And when you have that perspective of your own timeline of life, like you are popping out of the human 3D experience and you're kind of looking down on it as though you are your higher self looking down, you're able to see the bigger picture. And in the bigger picture, there's always a greater lesson. There's always a greater like purpose to things. So when we're in our like 3D, looking through our eyes, labeling things good and bad, should have and shouldn't have, and all of that, we have tunnel vision. We really don't have the perspective to be able to see the whole big picture of how and why things happen. Very simple example. The other day, my husband and the kids left late for school. Well, there ended up being a wreck. Had they left on time, would they be in the wreck? I don't know. But in very simple terms like that, you think being late is bad. But in actuality, in the grand scheme of things, the whole big picture is probably a really good thing. You see what I'm saying? So when I take my clients back on their timeline, what we're getting is why did this thing occur that was for the greater, higher good, the greater purpose of your evolution? And we can go as simplistic, like right now, just because it's such a personal thing, we can go very simplistic and to say things have happened in your past so that you would arrive exactly where you are here today. Because so much of our past that we label bad, we go, if it would have been better then, but you don't know that. You see what I'm saying? You don't know that. You don't know how much that bad situation from your past was such a catalyst to develop you into the human you are right now. You have no idea who you would have been. A lot of times I think about like the development. So when I went to college, I got into UT, University of Tennessee, straight out of high school, but Marli didn't go. I went to a community college that was closer to home. And a lot of times I'm like, I should have just went to UT right out of high school. I would have had like the dorm experience. I would have blah, 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 blah. My life would have been so different. All the things. And yeah, my life would have been so different. But you know what? I wouldn't be who I am today. It would have been a totally different storyline. You see what I'm saying? So when you're looking back on your life, you've got to set up the perfect thing happened And I know that because it's what happened. I know that the exact perfect thing happened. And if you have an emotional charge with it, there's something you're missing. There's something you got to get with it. Now, the really cool thing about doing the timeline clearing work is that the second you get the bigger lesson, we do energetic clearing on it. And then that emotional charge is neutralized. There's no more emotional charge at all. It happens like clockwork every single time. I love this technique that I use because it will neutralize those feelings in your body from a past thing that you think went wrong. But when you see actually how right it went and you get the greater lesson from it, it completely dissipates. We call it magic. It's actually like physics, but we call it magic because it feels like that. It's like, oh my God, I've been carrying this heavy emotion for my entire life, trying to avoid that feeling, avoid that memory, avoid whatever. And then in a 20-minute session, we can neutralize it. I had a client one time who, for decades held resentment against her dad. And we had a few sessions where we talked about it, we brought it up, and then I took her into an energetic session and we cleared it entirely to the point where she tells me, like, now she's like, Marli, all I feel is like just gratitude when I think about him now. Do you know how huge that is? Like, how cool is that? So the point being is that anything from your past, we have to first start saying, I accept what happened, because you can't even build a level of trust relationship with yourself today if you're still rejecting your past. Reject the root, reject the flower. This is a phrase we would say in the Lightworker Society all the time. You cannot grow something beautiful if you're chopping at the roots and saying they're not good enough. Like, reject the root, reject the flower. So you've got to start with that. Past Marli's a genius, and the perfect thing happened, and I know it's perfect because it's what happened. So we're starting here. Now, in that past situation, think about everything you just cleaned up by doing that. You're no longer rejecting your past. You're no longer rejecting your past self. Okay, like that is a solid foundation to start building something on in the present, right? So then in the present moment, like waking up at 9:30 when you've got to go live at 10, in the present moment, that level of trust is built through showing up for yourself. Like, that's where the am I in integrity with who I want to be and what I want to do comes in. Am I building trust with myself here by showing up for me, not for anybody else? Because here's the thing, and a lot of people do this. A lot of people are in integrity as long as it involves someone else. You know what I mean? It's like the whole buddy system with going to work out. I'll work out because I have a workout partner and I don't want to disappoint them. But you're not doing it for you. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's no relationship being built with yourself. There's just a relationship being built with, I don't want to look bad or people to be upset with me, which is people pleasing. We don't want to build that relationship, right? It's, am I doing it for me? So you want to look at your life and just ask yourself, like, what am I doing for me? What am I doing that's in integrity with what I want, who I want to be, where I want to go? Because that, I mean, you can feel it automatically, right? All of a sudden, it starts to feel this like solidness that starts to get built within yourself. Hi, Nia. Welcome. Good morning. So in the present moment, am I in integrity with what I want, with who I want to be, with what I want to be doing? And you got to check yourself on that, because especially as women, we tend to have this like sacrificial bone in our body where we're like, I will sacrifice my happiness for the sake of the children, for the sake of other, like we do this thing. And I'm like, okay, let's calm down. Like, I get it. You know, you're great. You're a great human. You're a great mom. You're a great partner. You're great, all these things. Except if you are continuously putting yourself on a back burner, no one's getting the best version of you. one's getting the best version of you. When you prioritize you prioritize what you want, and you start walking in alignment with who it is that you want to be and what you want for your life, what you end up unlocking is that higher potential. You're now walking in tandem with your higher self. You're now like walking the path of what you signed up to be. Everyone gets the best version of you like that. You see what I'm saying? So it's a big conversation, but like it's necessary. You have to check yourself. Where am I sacrificing my own energy, my own happiness, my own wants, my own who I want to be in the name of whatever, anything else? So am I in integrity with what I want? Am I in integrity with who I want to be? You just want to start looking at yourself in the present moment. So as you start to do that and you start to show up for that, oh, holy Lord and everything, as you start to show up for the sake of this is what I want, now you're building self-trust. You feel it? Now you're building self-trust. Now the second piece to this is your boundaries. So over the years, I have purposefully worked to be solid in my boundaries. And what I mean by boundaries is like as simple as I say no when I want to say no. I say yes when I want to say yes. And I do not mix it up. Because, there was a time for sure, in my younger years where I would say yes when I wanted to say no. Or I would second guess, like, well, maybe I should. Right? Now I'm at a point in my life where, because I have built such a solid relationship with myself, that if I don't want to, I'm not going to. And I'm not talking about like we got to do our responsibilities in life. I'm not talking about that. But I'm just talking about like someone says like, hey, do you want to go da 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 and do this with me? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't want to. Right? Things of that nature. Because when you say yes, when you want to say no, what are you doing? Breaking trust with yourself. You're betraying your own intuitive guidance. So it's a practice that we start bringing that in. So we've got integrity, we've got boundaries. And then the last piece of this is you've got to take full ownership for your life, full ownership for how you feel, full ownership for what you want, full ownership for what you're good at, full ownership for what you're not good at, full ownership over your feelings. You have to take full ownership. So this is an acronym that I teach inside my containers. It's called BIO, Boundaries, Integrity, and Ownership. And it's the key. It is the absolute key to self-trust, to acceptance, to building that relationship with yourself. So let's see here. Nia said, tuning in from New York City. New York City. This is your sister, Nia. We do us women. Yeah. So past Marli is a genius. I know it's a perfect thing that I did in the past because it's what I did. Present moment, you're looking at integrity. Am I in integrity with what I want in life? Am I showing up for me? Am I saying no when I want to say no? Yes when I want to say yes? And am I taking full ownership, meaning I'm not blaming anything for the circumstance of me? Do you feel what I'm saying? So the more that you practice that, the more that you're going to feel this unwavering self-trust. Because in the end, you've got you, and you've got you. And that's the only way. The only way to build your personal power. It's the only way to, no matter what the situation is, you got it. You got it. Things can be like, life will throw us for a loop sometimes. Amen. I mean, throw some stuff at us, especially, when you start really understanding all of these catalysts that happen. We've got our cosmos, our astrology, like Saturn is going to come in and just slap you against the face. If you're not in alignment with who you're meant to be, you're going to have certain situations that just happen seemingly out of nowhere because karmic destiny is coming in and saying like, you got to shift. You're going down this path and I need you to go down this path. So life is going to throw us for a loop sometimes. There's nothing we can do about that. Hear me on this. There's nothing you can do about changing the circumstances that life's going to throw at you when they come out of left field. You can't do that. All you can do is build you to be able to handle it. But it's enough. It's more than enough. So the more that you work on you, the more you build your ability to be able to handle anything that life is throwing at you. So as you build your personal power, as you build your trust with yourself, you're going to be able to walk into any room, any situation, any point in time, and know that you've got it. You've got it. You can handle it. And that's power. That's trust. And when we do that, this is why you hear me all the time, every day of your life, you hear me speaking to the inner work and working on you, because that is our power. We don't have power to control and manipulate the world or others. And nor should we have that power. No one needs to have that power. No one does have that power. But what you do have is the ability to build yourself into a level of human that can handle literally anything that's thrown at you. And that's where we want to live. Amen. And the hallelujahs. Okay. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here live on a Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to do Q&A. So if you have questions that you want to send in to be answered on the show, you can just message me directly or email me at assistant@marliansel.com. I am going to create a question drop box, like a page on the website, probably in the next few days. But for the time being, you can just message me directly if you have a question you want to dive into. If there's a topic that's been top of mind that you just want to talk about, send it to me directly, and we will dive in tomorrow for our Friday Q&A. I can't believe it's Friday already. All right, my loves, I love you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow for another episode of The Morning Show. Goodbye, my loves.